Activating opportunity.
Activating freedom.
Activating wealth. We know that we are here to do life big. We expect miracles. We expect growth. We expect a bigger impact.
God has bigger plans, bigger dreams, bigger impact than we have comprehended in the past. And this year, we are going to drive into that destiny. It is time to dream bigger and drive faster.
Anybody in with us?
This is our good friend, Alan Jackson. There he is. I met him when I went on a humanitarian trip to Tanzania, Africa in June of 2023. The experience I had there was one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. I am forever changed. As I was on the trip with Alan and others, I knew that there was a story behind how he got involved and was eventually asked to lead this organization. In the spring of 2016, Alan received repeated impressions from God telling him that he needed to get involved in something bigger than himself. He kept saying, yeah, okay. And then we kind of brushed it aside. The impressions kept coming until finally one day, Alan told God, okay, I get it. Yes. Upon which he had a follow-up impression that God wanted him to go to Africa. His initial thoughts were, I don't want to go to Africa. I don't even know where Africa is. But God told him he was going to send him there anyway. So Alan said, all right. And a few weeks later, he was in a business meeting with a friend. The friend mentioned how he found an organization that drills clean water wells in Africa. Immediately, Alan knew that this is where God wanted him to serve. So he stood up, pointed at his friend, and said, I will serve in Africa, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Although Alan was surprised by his comment, he knew that it was true. Okay, let me pause the story for a moment. Let's talk about one of the most serious health crises in Africa. The #1 cause of mortality in African children under the age of 5 is contaminated water. What we take for granted, clean water on demand, is just not readily available there. So many water sources, there are nothing more than dirty water holes shared with livestock. It is common for many young girls to walk long distances to gather water for their mothers and their families, often putting these young girls in danger and also preventing them from attending school regularly. Okay, back to our story. Now, nearly 10 years later, Hearts and Hands for Humanity has drilled over 277 clean water wells for the East African people, employing local young men in 4 different countries who hand drill and maintain each well, effecting change for more than 500,000 children and adults. The organization also operates an orphanage, provides outreach, education to schools, teaches children, especially girls, about maturation, hygiene, safety, and provides desperately needed human health supplies and menstruation kits. Having been a small part of this and experienced it hands-on, it is truly a work of big impact. Last year, Seth and I saw a movie that truly inspired us. This movie, Cabrini, is the life story of a truly remarkable woman, Frances Xavier Cabrini, affectionately known as Mother Cabrini. Born July 1850, 2 months premature, she was small and weak and suffered from delicate health her entire life. What she may have lacked in physical strength and stamina, she definitely made up for with an unbreakable spirit and great desire to serve. In Italy, she was invaluable as a teacher and leader of an orphanage. But her desires to serve abroad were so great that she petitioned the Pope directly. He sent her to New York City to serve the numerous Italian immigrants in America who were the bottom of the social hierarchy. Mother Cabrini fought prejudice, discord within the church itself, lack of resources, and every other type of opposition. What she created was nothing less than miraculous. Orphanages, schools, hospitals. She was a teacher, a counselor, a caregiver, a healer, and an entrepreneur. She did what others didn't do, what they thought couldn't be done and weren't willing to do. She truly moved mountains. Mother Cabrini was here to build an empire of love. In 1946, she was the first American to be canonized and receive sainthood. 4 years later, in 1950, she was named the patron saint of all immigrants. Woo! Okay, now let me get deeply personal with you. I was born and raised in Arizona. 2 weeks before I turned 19, I got married. I became a mother at 20, giving birth to a beautiful baby girl. At 22, I welcomed a sweet little tow-headed baby boy into our family. And at 25, I found myself unexpectedly going through a heartbreaking divorce. This was a time of overwhelming emotions, betrayal, wondering who I could trust, anger that I was in this difficult situation, grief that my family was breaking up, and fear of being a single mother. Despite these deep emotions, I knew I wanted a stronger relationship with God. I knew that I would have to do things differently moving forward in order to become the person I needed and wanted to be. The next 5 years became my training ground to implement those changes. I found myself becoming stronger, more confident, and deeply grounded. Then out of the blue, I felt God tell me I needed to move my little family to Utah. There was only one problem. I didn't have any family or a job in Utah. But relying on God, I made the necessary preparations to move forward and make it happen. So at 30, we made the move. I found temporary housing in a friend's basement. I found a job and got my kids into school. And then 90 days later, Seth and I met on a country dance floor.
You want to dance?
Sure. He was a single father of 6, and as you know, I was a single mother of 2. That chance meeting, of course, was no coincidence. It was the beginning of what we think is the greatest of love stories. Together, we are creating a big life, a life without limits, teaching our children and our grandchildren to seek big visions and go after their dreams, ministering to the needs of our brothers and sisters in Africa and beyond. And of course, activating wellness on a mission to impact the lives of millions of people with the biggest secret in the entire field of health and wellness. So, the common thread in all of these stories, it is in the going and doing that our dreams are built. Each one of us has and will have critical experiences and opportunities that will define our lives, our work, and our character. So what's coming to your mind right now? What is that one thing you've been called to do? And are you doing it? No matter what other people might say or do to distract or dissuade you, you have been called and inspired to live a bigger life. We know you felt called and inspired because you are here today. And we know that LifeVantage is that vehicle which we can drive to destiny.
Can I get an amen? Man, preach, woman. I love you.
I love you too.
God has a bigger vision for you than you can possibly have for yourself. And he brought that vision to me in pink. Pink's never been so much my favorite color as it is today. It's in the going and the doing that we make our dreams come true, that we are able to realize and do bigger things than we thought we could. It is not in the simply thinking and wishing and hoping. It is in the going and the doing. So today we're going to be talking about action. Whether that was Mother Cabrini building an empire of love, whether it was Alan now serving over 500,000 children, families in Africa, or whether it's Stephanie moving to find Prince Charming. I had to. That's not in the script.
I can't say you're wrong.
You can't say it. So let's talk about these actions. Rubber hits the road, okay? It's not just in taking action, but taking the right actions. Everybody starts here. Everyone starts at the beginning of the road, the beginning of the racetrack. Everyone enrolls as a consultant. You make some strides and we get to SC1, that first initial, Courtney Watkins, within 30 days, right? That milestone. We move then to the managing ranks, managing consultant 1, and then on to the executive ranks. And eventually, of course, presidential. Evolve. The more I understand about Evolve, the more I love this gift and this plan. Yes, we see 14 ranks, but we also see kind of a division of powers, a division of actions that are most important as you're going through those ranks. So today we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about what is the action of sharing. Yes, we know what sharing means, but can we break it down to the single most important action that we can count every single day that would really matter when it comes to sharing, or building, or growing, or leading our business? So let's talk about the front end of Evolve. Let's talk about sharing. I hope you don't feel like I'm leaving you here. I'm just, I got a place. I can't stand here. I just can't do it. We met dancing. We didn't meet at the library, okay? So let's talk about sharing, okay? Especially at the beginning ranks, but how many of you are still sharing the story? Raise of hands, right? Every rank in here is sharing. But especially, there is no go. That vehicle don't move unless we open our mouths and start sharing. So, Covey wrote a great book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And in that book, they talk about what is the one thing? What is the one thing that you really need to count that is going to cascade, push all the other dominoes down so that you can get the result? Now, I know, and you know, that when we share, we're looking for new customers and new consultants. Great. But that's not what we really should be measuring. That's not the action, that's the result. Every single day, we should be tracking that one new lead action. The one action that's going to lead everything else, and everything else will fall into place. Covey calls it, I forgot what Covey called it. Anyway, he called it a lead measure. Today I'm going to call it a lead action. If you want new consultants, new customers personally in your business, then the one thing that really matters is exposure and engagement. Perhaps you've heard of ITT. That stands for Invite, Tool, Team. Exposure engagement is that process. Inviting somebody, calling them up, Lou calling Patti in Hermosillo, Sonora, is an exposure. Hey, I have something. But exposure isn't enough. It's not only enough to call and invite. It's not only enough to send a link to an amazing new video that the company launched. We have to couple that with the engagement. The invite must be coupled with the tool. The exposure is what you do. The engagement is what they do. And it's the marriage of those two sides of the coin The driver and the passenger meeting in the middle, exposure and engagement, is that one thing that you need to count every single day. Next, build. So when we're talking about managing consultant, senior consultant 1, 2, 3, but this again applies all the way up the evolved consultant path. What are we building, right? We're building new customers. We're building experiences for new consultants. How many of you have had new customers who join or new consultants join but never actually turn the key? Never actually get out of the driveway. What we need to do is there needs to be an action. If you want to build the business, you need to build new people. You need to build firsts. If you're a customer, if you have a new customer, you need to help them go through onboarding to build an experience. If they don't build that experience, they are not yours. What are the firsts that a new customer must experience? They must experience a positive, demonstrable experience with the product. And 2, we want them to share that. Okay? What are the new experiences that a consultant must experience in order to build their belief? They got to have that same positive, demonstrable experience with the product. They also need to enroll their first customer and enroll their first consultant in less than 30 days, 7 to 30 days. So onboarding is that activity. It's that lead action that will lead to everything else in your business when you enroll that new consultant and that new customer. Growing. Now we're in the managing ranks. We've got people who are probably doing presentations as well. We've got people who are kind of sharing those tools. We've got more things that are happening that are just reliant upon us. How do we continue to grow that business? What we're looking for is replication. We're looking to pass that baton. We're looking for greater magnitude of activity. What is the lead action, the one thing? Ever heard of this, Marcel, Tyler? Presentations. How many a month? Marcel's changed. It used to be 15, now he's like, a lot. It is a lot. It's 15. The lead action to grow your business, especially if you're in the managing ranks, is that presentation, that team consult, those 3-way meetings. How many of those are happening in your organization every day? And then finally, in the executive and presidential ranks, it's lead. We need to do something different. It's not just about sharing. It's not just about growing or building. How do we lead? Well, what we want is generational leadership. Leaders upon leaders upon leaders upon leaders. Can you imagine, think bigger, not just being an executive leader yourself, but being backed by leader upon leader upon leader upon leader, and frankly, leaders who blow your mind. Leaders who can look you in the eye and say, Seth, you're playing small. That happened to me today. That's what you want, is generational leadership. What is the leadership action? It's having those leadership consults. It's making sure that you're connected to those leaders every single day, every single week, so you know what's going on in their world. It might involve just connecting. It might be counseling together. And sometimes it does involve coaching. That's it. 4 actions. And if we can take our notes back up to the rubber hits the road, that'd be great. Thank you. So, this is where the rubber hits the road. These 4 actions every single day. Let's review what we are going to do and make the commitment.
All right, number 1, share. Everybody, no matter what rank you are, needs to share. And exposure engagement is what counts. Take a moment right now to write down the specific names of people you will reach out to, expose and engage in the next 10 days.
Like right now. So pull out a device, pull out a paper, and make the commitment. Nothing happens until we actually take action. So we're gonna wait. We got 15 seconds, that's all. I see Dondi and Marcy over here taking action. I see Jennifer taking action. I see Holly, she's got it out. I'm hoping Brian's pulling it out. I'm always just not relying on the lady next to him. Call out. Who are you gonna talk to? Who do you need to follow up with? It doesn't have to be new. Like, it's all about engagement. It might be somebody who's been waiting on the sideline that you've been talking to for 6 months. Who are you gonna talk to in the next 10 days? You have that commitment? Okay, next, build. If you have any new consultants or new customers, or any consultants or customers that you've personally enrolled who have not recently completed onboarding, right? The checklist, the launch plan. If they've not done that, then they're not maximizing their success. Now is the time to build with them. Take 15 seconds right now, personally enrolled consultants or customers, who is on that list for you, so you can make sure you call them and say, let's go through onboarding. I want to make sure that you have your firsts. Okay, you got 10 seconds. 1 or 2 names. We just want to get things started. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, number 3, grow. If you currently have active consultants in your business, you will grow that business faster the more presentations you personally do within the team. Make a commitment right now. How many presentations are you going to do in the next 30 days?
All right, make the commitment, write the number, and then raise your hand when you've written the number. Raise your hand with the number. I'm raising our hands because we already wrote the number before we came up here. Because we weren't going to ask you to do something that we weren't willing to do ourselves. Do I see any hands? Hands coming up? Okay, I see some over here. I see Jennifer's up. Brian's is up. Holly's is up. Okay, Dondi. All right, how many presentations are you going to do in the next 30 days to make that happen? And finally, leadership consult. If you're in the executive ranks, it is about developing generational leadership. So who are the top 3 most influential, active leaders in your organization? Write their names down and make sure that you talk to them in the next 10 days. You don't need to coach necessarily. You can connect, right? Sometimes you don't know what to say, but having that relationship, counseling together can help you help them take their business to the next level. Do you know where we are right now? I don't know where we are.
I think it needs to scroll down.
That's why I never use a teleprompter. So, what were you saying, Carrie?
Convention Center.
We are in the convention center, thank you. All right. So, you've been called to be here. You know what to do. You just made a commitment to do it. You have a vision to achieve activated health and activated wealth. That desire to multiply an activated life to hundreds, thousands, literally millions of people who I promise you are waiting, praying, hoping for the answer that you will bring.
Now is our time to do life big.
We love
you.
You have anything to say to your mom or your dad?
Has today been awesome?
That was amazing.
So I have to say, in Kansas City, Aaron
Say, I
Beck
love
made me
you.
bawl
I love you.
to the point that Steve